Hi, Dr. Harrison. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing all right. Jahan, how are you doing today?
Everybody knows me as Jahan. Everybody knows me as
Oh,
Jay
really?
Carter.
Well, I guess you better be cutting this part out. You stop that recording. You should stop that recording.
Anyway, we both have on our shirts. You have on
We
the
do, we
doctor
do.
shirt. I have on the TV lawyer shirt. So I just wanted to jump into obviously you are known as, or I know you as the person behind the Black TV Doctor shirt. You've been with me along this journey with developing the Black Lawyers podcast, and then the merch that obviously is the companion to the podcast. And so, anyway, you were behind the shirt, and so I thought it was fitting to chop it up with you some, so the audience can get to know the person behind the shirt.
Hey, that sounds like a good idea, and that's why I know you as Jahan because behind the scenes, I've been on the journey with you. So for everybody, it's Jay Cotter. Her real name is Jahan. So, so it's been fun in terms of idea creation as well as recognition of past performers who've shaped our culture, our Black culture, who've shaped the way that we think, and to some degree, who we looked at those in terms of what we could potentially do. And so, of course, me being in the medical field, there are a good amount of television medical doctors and things like that, Black, that have definitely, been nice little shining stars for me to reference along my journey and stuff throughout college, residency, doing podiatry school as well. So it's been fun. It's been fun.
So why don't you tell the audience? Let's take it back a little bit to,
Okay.
I don't want to say baby Dr. Harrison, but because you weren't a doctor at the time.
I know.
Pre-med Harrison. Okay, so what do you think was the turning point for you to decide I'm going to be a doctor? Because I know people say, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer. Like these are very like popular professions to say, but it's one thing
Yeah.
to say it and then be like, you know what, I'm actually going to take this seriously and go down this path. At what point did you kind of say, I think this is what I want to do?
About 6 or 7 years old. And so it wasn't necessarily a turning point, at least not for me, which is the case for a lot of people. But I always wanted to be a person who helped others, and it was in a form of being a doctor that I wanted to do it. So growing up, I had the opportunity to obviously play the little doctor game, with the little pieces. I forget what the name of the game is called right now, but even more so, I got to look at the neurosurgeon here over at Johns Hopkins. And why am I forgetting his name right now? So terrible for me to tell a story and forget everyone who's important in the actual story. Ben Carter, Dr. Ben Carter, here at Johns Hopkins, which of course is in Maryland, and I'm based out of Maryland as well, out of the Baltimore area now. And so I read his books as a kid and saw his story. I forget when it came out. Maybe I was in elementary school or so. And even before then, I'd always run around and stuff like that, talking about I wanted to be a doctor. And so along the way, I still had that same conviction. And no one deterred me. Nobody told me otherwise, which was, of course, great. So um, throughout high school, which is pre-med Donald, or pre-med Dr. Harrison. Um, you know, this is what I wanted to do, and everybody around was like, "All right, that's cool. All right, do what you do." So it was nice. I had a lot of support along the way, in terms of parents, in terms of siblings, and things like that. So yeah, so the typical pathway that a lot of physicians and even lawyers as well take with having some inflection point. I didn't quite have that inflection point, but instead, I just had the obstacles that we all have along the way. The roller coaster ride to get there. It's not a straight line. It's definitely a squiggly line. And so I still ran along that squiggly line. So it was fun.
It's funny, you're probably the only we have so much in common. Like the more that I learn about you, the more we have in common because no one believes me when I say, "Oh, I wanted to be a lawyer since I was what is second grade? Is are you 7
7 or 7 years old. Yeah, about
Yeah,
seven.
7 years old. So, I always tell people 2nd grade because we had to do, like, a fake mock trial. Went to school on Capitol Hill, they had us do a fake mock trial to learn the roles of the courtroom, so the lawyer, the judge, the witness, whatever, and I got the lawyer role, and so
Okay.
I won my fake case, and I said, "Oh, I can do this for a living? Okay." And no one ever, like you said, it was like literally from that point on. So I didn't necessarily have an inflection moment. I just had an experience, and it
Mhm.
was like that's all I knew. I knew I wanted to do other things. I didn't know at the time it was called an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
but at the time that's what I wanted to do a lot of things, but I always knew being a lawyer would be a part of it. So yeah, that's something else we have in common. We both kind of knew very young what we wanted to do. Um, you talked about the path. I really don't think people understand. I was just talking to another doctor, Dr. Ava, shout out Dr. Ava, about her journey becoming a doctor. Tell people about like even how expensive it can be. Cause I mean, it's even expensive becoming an attorney. You have to do law school, you have to pay for books, your tuition, your living expenses, then you have to pay for multiple licensing exams. So like for someone that's listening, we'll talk about just the mental labor in terms of becoming a doctor, but like how
Yeah.
expensive is it to become a doctor?
So it can be expensive, and I will say to the contrary, it can be less expensive. It truly depends on how active you are in terms of making sure that you're on a good budget for yourself personally. Also, how active you are in trying to find money. So there are grants out there, there are loans, of course, out there, and so there's a lot of help. But generally speaking, we don't know how to find that help. We aren't too resourceful as well. We don't necessarily utilize our resources that are even there in front of us. And so it is expensive, I will say, but I want to say for sure that I believe that we may make it a little bit more expensive on us than it has to be because we got to be a little bit more active in finding money that's there and available. But it can cost anywhere from as low as $100,000. This is if you're doing it on your own, 120,000, all the way up to 500K, depending on how you're trying to live during medical school. And so, if you have a grand or lavish lifestyle already and you're entering into medical school and you plan on keeping that up, then you're probably going to be closer to, three, four, $500,000. If you are a miser or pretty frugal, then you may be on the lower end of that, between 200 to 100,000, maybe 250 or so. And so, some of the costs, obviously, you have the cost of actual tuition itself, which is subsidized a great deal with loans coming from the federal government and potentially grants and things like that. You got the cost to feed yourself as well. You also have the cost to travel, get to and fro medical school and things like that. And what else? Let me go down a laundry list. You got to clothe yourself. You got to find some place to live. So that's rent or potential mortgage if you already have a family, because a lot of people in law school, medical school already have families and things like that. You also have a lot of small fees that you have to pay along the way. Books cost as well. And of course, entertainment costs a good amount of money as well. And so I think during residency time frame and during med school, law school, that is a time where you do actually spend a lot more money on entertainment than you would otherwise, because you're actually moving toward particular goals, which means being in environments that are probably going to be more expensive. And what I mean by that is different meeting rooms, whether you're going to different lounges to meet up with um, like fellow law students or fellow med students and things of that nature. You're traveling a little bit more. Your experience is going to be different than what we might see for like an everyday experience. And so, yeah, it can get pretty expensive pretty quick. So to defray it, jobs. A lot of people have jobs, whether they're at the actual school itself or whether they're off-campus type jobs and things of that nature, which helps out a whole lot. And constantly searching for grants is pretty daggone big during the process. So it doesn't have to be as expensive as we make it out to be. I do have to say that because for me, it was about $150,000 all total for myself. And of course, you still had to pay back $150,000. So that's nothing to sneeze at in and of itself. But that is on the low end for a lot of med school, podiatry school students. So
You don't know this about Dr. Harrison. He's really good with money. So that's why
sometimes.
he's on the low end. The low end, he can budget. So at the end of the day, if you can budget, as he says, you're going to be on the low end. You're not going to be on the high end. Tell us what undergrad you went to, then what med school you went to, and then what type of courses. I think it's a requirement that you have to take. Correct me if I'm wrong. Don't you have to take a certain amount of or types of courses in undergrad in order to even apply for med school? So talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So, applying for med school, podiatry school, which is me specifically, and applying for other graduate schools, they all have requisites, the same as us coming out of high school when we had to make sure we took specific classes in order to take the SAT or the ACT in order to get into whatever college we wanted to go to. So, in our case, it's organic chemistry 1, organic chemistry 2. You got regular chemistry 1 and 2. You got biology. You also need to take calculus 1 and 2 as well. And generally speaking, you're going to need a couple more biological sciences thrown in there as well as a part of the base. So whether it be like molecular biology, marine biology, or some other types of chemistries, you can take different courses to fill in those extra little bits. But the biology, chemistry, organic chemistry, calculus, those are the classes that you definitely have to take during high school in order to be ready to take your MCAT. And so it's still taking an MCAT, and a lot of people take it at least 2 times. Once if they knock it out the park, but at least 2 times, which is junior year, sophomore, junior year, and again in senior year. And so the courses are pretty rigorous. They're pretty tough. So if you aren't used to staying up late at night, missing parties, missing fun, missing football games, if whatever sport it is that you like, or whatever shows that you like, if you aren't really accustomed to missing out on those in order to study to get to where you want to go, then it's definitely going to be a tougher road than what it has to be. Sure.
Well, I always tell the story to my doctor friends that I knew I wasn't going to be a doctor when uh, my first year of, I never wanted to be a doctor, to be honest with you. I admire doctors, but I just knew, just even you going through those courses, chemistry, calculus, when you were going through that list, I was like, and this is exactly why I'm not a doctor, because I avoided I had to take certain you had to take a certain because I what is it like a bachelor of arts, you still have to take a certain amount of like science and math courses to graduate. So I
Yeah.
looked for everything. I tried to take what did I take? I tried to take astronomy. I was avoiding chemistry basically. I was avoiding chemistry and calculus. So I took astronomy, I took statistics, and some natural science course. But the gag is with statistics, it was still hard. It still wasn't like easy.
Yeah.
Like it was still difficult. And then with astronomy, I'm out there in the dark in line taking my final exam. You had to look up at the sky and you had to, say, all looked the same. It all looked the same. And I was like, Dad, I'm getting ready to fail this course because I'm gonna look up in the sky and he's gonna ask me what's what. I'm thinking I'm taking an easy course. And so I just stood there and I let 4 people go in front of me. And so I listened to the order and then I
Yeah.
just I just memorized the order of how they said it. And
That's
then I
some good
reset
news
it.
right there.
Hopefully
That's
my
the lawyer.
astronomy person isn't my teacher ain't listening, but I I was just like, and even that was difficult. So I think naturally, if you're really good at math and science, people tend to usher you towards these fields anyway, because it is something you have to have. But yeah, I learned that early on. I also saw in my dorm, half of my floor on my dorm they all were like, "Oh, I'm pre-med," and I'm laughing because I was like, at the end of the semester, these people ain't gonna be pre-med, and sure enough, they all changed their majors. They all changed as soon as they had to take that first kind of chemistry and that calculus in college. They were not
Yeah.
pre-med. They jumped ship. And you don't really see the pre-med students, and you also don't see the engineering students. You don't see those students really until you're getting ready to graduate because yeah, it's not a game. So my hats are off to y'all that are naturally good at math and science and just want to be doctors. I mean, at the end of the day, you want to be doctors, so you're gonna do what you need to do to do it. My hats are off to you because, like, yeah, I always knew it was that was never that, and I'm just like with blood and you got to do. I think when you're in med
It's just
school,
not for you, huh? It's just not for you,
well,
huh?
I also isn't it true that you guys have to work on dead bodies
Well,
in
something
med
like
school?
that, yes. Uh-huh.
So
Yes.
yeah, so I was just like, it's a lot. So anyway, if none of that turns you off, you are still on the right path to be a
So
doctor.
those
This,
For clarification, everyone, these are bodies that have been donated to medical science with permission by by the family members of those that have passed away. And so, yeah, so we do work on dead bodies, and generally speaking, we're working on the entire body throughout the course of the year. So
mm.
that's the chest, the arms, the legs, and of course the feet. So we worked on the entire body, depending on what section we were studying in terms of anatomy or lower extremity anatomy. And
And just for clarification, when
yeah,
you are becoming, because they're the specialties, right? Like you're a surgeon, foot and ankle
yeah.
surgeon, they're different specialties. But before you get to a specialty, everyone goes to the same med school. Everybody learns the same stuff, correct?
So to some degree, I'll clarify that right there, like you were asking. For podiatry school, for myself in particular, we're studying the lower extremity, primarily the foot and ankle and leg and everything. But we study the entire body in the first year, then we start to concentrate on the lower extremity. And it's 4 years of school. There are a total, I believe, about 12 podiatry schools throughout the nation. The one I went to was Temple University School of Podiatric Medicine up in Philly. So big shout out to everybody listening from Philadelphia. So that's my second home. And medical school is 4 years as well. Osteopathic medical school is 4 years as well. So those are the three dominant types of schools. So you have DPM, Doctor of Podiatric Medicine. You have MD, medical doctor, and then you have OD, which is or DO, should I say, Doctor of Osteopathic Medicine. And there are others as well in terms of like optometry, or should I say ophthalmology, but that's a little later on. And so you go through your 4 years of school, and toward the end of your third year and into your fourth year, you start going on rotations at various hospitals, sometimes at clinics and things like that, to get a feel for what you actually like. And it takes some time for a lot of folks, unless they already know going in. And so for those that are going to podiatry school, we kind of already know we're going to be podiatrists. And so we're like slightly a step ahead of the game in terms of specialty. But by the fourth year, you're now applying to residency in a particular specialty. So if you're applying for internal medicine, you're applying for internal medicine. If you're applying for orthopedics, then you're applying in that track. If you're applying for surgery, which is just all general surgery, then you're applying on that track. And we have some others too, such as neurology, physical medicine, and education. And I may be missing one or two, but forgive me if I'm missing those. And so, yeah, so it's when you start going on your rotations in like your third year and into your fourth year that you really figure out what it is that you want to do. And when you do get to residency, the time that you're in residency varies depending on what actual specialty you're in. So if you're a general surgeon, then you got yourself a solid 5 years of general surgery. And if you want to specialize in something in particular, such as colorectal surgery or cardiovascular surgery or something like that, then that's in fellowship. And so you have even more years after that 5. And for podiatry, it's podiatric medicine and surgery. We have 3 years, just like internal medicine does. And if we want to go to a fellowship, whether it be in biomechanics or dermatology and other fellowships, then those are more years that we'll tack on to our initial 3. And so the same lies for other specialties too. Now, I can't forget about the one of the fun specialties, which is dermatology. So that's another one that people apply for coming out of school. So
So
hopefully,
why why are you a foot and ankle surgeon versus, I don't know, a heart surgeon? I don't know. Why did you pick that part of the body to focus on?
like podiatry. I didn't pick podiatry. Podiatry picked me. And so doing undergrad, so I went to Mount St. Mary's undergraduate, Mount St. Mary's College, which is now Mount St. Mary's University in Emmitsburg, Maryland. And I was an athlete. So I was a scholarship athlete running track and field and cross country. And during my sophomore year, I ruptured my plantar fascia. And so a lot of people know about heel spurs and plantar fasciitis and things like that, especially as we get older, right? You know, you
I was gonna say, except for me, I did not know. So something about me. I always saw that word. What is it again? Plantar fasciitis. I would see it on commercials and I didn't know what they were talking about. And then when I met you, I was like, oh, they've been talking about this the whole time. And I didn't even know. But
Didn't
anyway,
even
yeah.
know. Didn't even. And so yeah, so I ended up rupturing my plantar fascia band, which is at the bottom of my heel or bottom of my foot. It starts at my heel bone and goes towards the joints on the bottom of my foot. I was at a cross country meet, and when that happened, I cried like a baby for about the next like 4 or 5 hours because it was so painful. In a part of my rehab, I was seeing a podiatrist that was local to the area who worked with a lot of athletes from different colleges and high schools. And I went through rehabilitation with him, not necessarily one on one, but there was physical therapy right down the street. And so I was with him and I got to see a lot of what he did in his office setting and what his lifestyle was like. And so that gave me a big time head start in terms of what it is that I actually wanted to do within medicine because I didn't know that I wanted to be a podiatrist per se, as opposed to orthopedist or anything else until college. And so that direction came once I was with him. So um, thank you to all the hours I spent running outside and everything that led me along this pathway and everything, and the injuries too. So it was a good time. So that's how I became a podiatrist. I got injured. I went to one for close to a year, and he mentored me. And I have another mentor that was down here in the Maryland, D.C. area as well during college. Once I knew that I wanted to become one, and I just took it from there.
You also aren't you? You're also a track coach, right?
Yeah, yeah. So one of my loves is track and field, of course, and giving back the way that track and field was given to me. So there are a lot of people within the track and field community when I was a teenager that helped me out along the way with rides, helped me out with transportation to different meets and things like that. My coaches, and so I wanted to do the same. I liked it. I understood the influence that I had on younger individuals just by association in terms of being a doctor. So, and I understand the importance too of seeing yourself, whether it be from my standpoint, looking at a younger 11, 12-year-old male or 14, 15-year-old male, or the other way around, having them have the ability to see me. And so I've been coaching for more than 20 years now. So since about 2003, 2004, as soon as I got out of college, I started coaching at the high school that I actually went to, Eleanor Roosevelt High School, which is in Greenbelt, Maryland. And even while I was in college, during those summer times, I would be back coaching. It's almost like a apprenticeship type time frame. And so yeah, I've been doing it for quite a while at the high school level, and it's been a blast. So to see like the cultural shifts of teenagers, the way they think, the way they act, the way they talk, is actually pretty cool to see. And then along the way, you just pick up a lot of great information that helps me out even today in terms of dealing with athletes in my office and outside of my office, and even just dealing with teenagers too. So.
So I think that's a good segue to some of the Dr. Harrison, obviously he's a surgeon, he's a track coach, but he also has a whole brand called Athlete Every Day, which is products. So I'm assuming you being um a a surgeon. It's underneath.
It's underneath. It's always here. It's
Like
always here.
Superman or something. Oh my God. Anyway, but I'm assuming you being a surgeon, you like you said, you're coaching kids, like it informs kind of your entrepreneurship in terms of creating the type of products that people want and need. So tell us about kind of the signature things you have with Athlete Every Day.
So, one of the signature products, or before I even talk about that, Athlete Every Day was born out of exactly what you said, what was needed. And so, in order to help athletes perform on a daily basis, or even the everyday or average Joe become an athlete, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of mental fortitude, a lot of resilience, and also it takes a lot of additional care with your body. And so, whether it be learning about your body, or whether it be using products in order to enhance your performance, not in terms of any steroids or anything, but in terms of rehabilitation. And so the products are made around rehab and recovery, which is huge in terms of the need. And so there's a massage gun. It's a high-end massage gun. I think I delivered one to you as well. But yeah, there's a high-end massage gun that we have that's made to be able to, withstand different environments and not break down. That was back in 2018, 2019, where that was the first product, the massage gun, that came out. And it's been a success, especially on the medical side with chiropractors and physical therapists and things like that. So it works out pretty well. And we also have massage balls that can either be heated or they can be cooled in a freezer or a refrigerator and then heated on a stove. And so it comes in a nice little container. I wish I would have known that we were going to have this segment. I would have brought some of these things on down here. But the hot cold massage ball works out pretty well in terms of teenage athletes, youth athletes, because it doesn't interfere with their growth plate. So they're able to give themselves massages and start to learn how to take care of their body, which is very, very important. So whether you're an athlete or not, learning how to take care of your body, learning, anatomy to some small degree, learning what posture is bad for you and things like that. It makes a huge difference in your life throughout the course of your life. So that massage ball is pretty cool. And we got some other products that are coming down a pipeline, a new orthotics line. That's one of the major needs that I'm looking to definitely fulfill. So they're already out. So there are some athletes that have them already in terms of carbon fiber orthotics, which help to attenuate stress. I'm gonna go geek mode real quick. So yeah, so the carbon fiber orthotics are made for athletes and other people that are like on their feet for long hours of the day, and it attenuates stress a great deal. So allows those muscles in the feet and the bones, and as well as the ligaments and tendons and things like that, to kind of get a good break and get some proper support. And then there are other orthotics too that are made depending on like your foot type and even what type of job you have. So if you're a truck driver, if you're on your feet, you're working in a factory, or if you're a lawyer and there's a need for you to wear heels and things like that, having additional support during those time frames. If you get rid of the pantsuit and you go onto the tennis court, or you go play racquetball with friends or pickleball, or you like to go for runs, there are orthotics that are made for those time frames, which definitely help to alleviate stress and attenuate stress on your body. So those are some of the products. There are more at athleteeveryday.com. And yeah, it's been a fun journey. The recovery space and rehabilitation space, there's a lot of demand, and with the knowledge that I have in particular, others have it too. But being a surgeon and seeing patients in the office, and then also seeing athletes on the basketball court or on the turf, that helps out a lot. I can connect the dots pretty well, and it's been fun. It's been fun to be able to
Well,
craft.
I have your gun with me.
Uh,
So I can attest it has three different, oh wait, I had to
Got to
turn
turn
it
it off.
off because the my nephew found the massage gun and was going to town. So Yeah, they have three different levels, which is pretty
Yeah.
cool. But yeah, this has the logo and everything. I can testify that it definitely works. It was definitely better than whatever I bought from TJ Maxx. I don't know what it was compared to this. Like this is the real deal, not what I had. But yeah, I believe going back to what I was saying when I was small, I knew I wanted to be a lawyer, but I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur as well. I didn't know it
Yeah.
was called an entrepreneur. And I think it's interesting that you say a lot of times in the medical profession, but also in the legal profession, a lot of times we're not encouraged to be entrepreneurs. It's
Right.
like, you're a doctor. Why are you trying to, people tell me you're a lawyer. Why are you trying to sell t-shirts? I'll never forget my mom was like, well, people don't understand what you're doing, like I guess you're selling t-shirts now. Like it was the worst thing in the world. I said, well, I got one shirt that made me almost $8,000 in 6 weeks. So if that's what they want, and the crazy thing is, I'm like, it's a shirt that has TV lawyer names on it. It's for a site called theblacklawyers.com. It's not like it's so far removed from me being a lawyer, but I think it just goes back to that old school mentality. Like, okay, if you went to a doctor, you need to just go to the hospital and have your patients and come home, eat your food, go to sleep, and do that all over again. Rinse and repeat. Same thing
Yeah.
with you need to go to the office or go to the courthouse, do your work, have your clients, come home. Don't think about anything else. Don't try to be anything else. And
Hmm.
again, I don't know why with these, maybe because it does typically take a lot of time and energy and it's very expensive, like you said, to be a lawyer and a doctor. It takes a lot of sacrifice. Even if it was free, it would still take a lot of sacrifice to be
It
in
does.
the
It
profession.
does for sure.
Maybe that's why the old school mind is like you should just focus on this. But again, at whatever, 7 8 years old in second grade, I knew I wanted to be a lawyer, but I also knew I wanted to create things. I'm obsessed with creation, so it doesn't matter. It could be a t-shirt, it could be a show, it could be a film, it could be a podcast. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
And so I'm a creative entrepreneur just as much as I'm an attorney. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So to piggyback on what you're saying, there are a ton of professional people who, of course, have great ideas in their head that may or may not materialize because that's not our teaching and upbringing doesn't necessarily lend itself to being a creative or being an entrepreneur. So, we, for the most part, we came through a Prussian school system, Prussian school of thought, which was based around the Industrial Revolution, which essentially meant, hey, we need to get the population, not just here in the United States, but this was across the world. We just need to get the population educated to at least a basic level in order to allow them to work within factories and things like that. And so the school system is designed around creating an employee, which of course is fine, but we know that that's not the only type of person that can earn money. And so it's to no fault of any of ours if we think about it for the most part. And it's not necessarily even we can't necessarily blame a school system was around before we were even born and before our parents were even born. This Prussian school system, and that's what we do have here in the United States. Remains, and there's not necessarily an impetus to change that per se. There are just plenty of new pathways for us to say, okay, if you like entrepreneurship, then you can go in this direction. We got a lot more options nowadays, but it's not necessarily readily available. It's readily available for us to become employees, which is okay because not everybody needs to be an entrepreneur. And so, as a lawyer, as a physician, even sometimes as a CEO, you are a high paid employee. And so that means you do have to go to school longer to learn additional skill sets that will definitely carry you through life and can sustain you. But if you want to do something else outside of being an employee, then you definitely have to take that extra step to start learning. And there are plenty of people nowadays, especially with social media, who can help you. And even outside of social media, there are plenty of people. There are plenty that can help you take that extra step to learn more about what our world has to offer, or even what the United States has to offer outside of just being an employee. So
I guess that segues to another question I had.
okay.
Well, I mean, you're 6 or 7 and you were going to be a doctor, so I don't know how you'll answer this question, but what do you think you would have been if for some reason you didn't become a doctor?
A couple answers to that question. One, capitalist. And so throughout my childhood and stuff, I like to say that I got the opportunity to live like multiple lives. And so my home environment was different than my school environment, which was different than my athletics environment. So I was three people in a single day. And a lot of people can attest to that, can understand about being in different environments and everything. And so I ran into a lot of personalities, learned a lot from a ton of different people in those different environments. So that's everything from doubt to self-confidence to ego, which is necessary for what we do, of course, to discipline and to speaking positively as well as speaking negatively. So I learned a lot from a lot of different people. And so what that allowed me to do is to be able to understand psychology just a little bit better. Untrained, of course, but just out in the field. And yeah, being able to use that within the world of business, I think that would have served me well in terms of trying to be a capitalist, i.e., learning a business, purchasing a business, and things of that nature. And so I think that's what I would have probably done. I also wanted to just become a professional athlete because I knew that pretty well, and I was on a pretty good trajectory before I got injured. So between one of those two things.
And if you don't know Dr. Harrison, he also paints. He's a man of many talents. Yeah, I'm surprised he don't have no paintings behind him.
Nah,
Usually,
no paintings are behind me
no
right now.
paintings, but he
We just
paints too.
we just got a
So
clear wall.
again, you can be a doctor, or but you can have other things. I used to dance. I'm a trained dancer for over like 16 years. So
Which,
I
which
believe being a dancer gave me confidence. I can go in front of people because I used to dance in front of hundreds or thousands of people. So it's interesting that you can learn, like you said, certain skill sets and they're
yeah,
transferable to other things. So definitely I definitely owe that to my dance background. Um Tell us quickly what was maybe the hardest moment in med school and your hardest moment maybe in residency. And if it's the same moment, fine. But if there are two different moments, you can, because again, it's really easy. You're at the end of the journey and you're the surgeon and you're very successful. But sometimes I think people need to hear about some of the hard moments. So, what do you think was like a hard moment in medical school and a hard moment in residency?
gotcha. Well, for me, podiatry school, we always like to, um, make that distinction. But during that time frame, there was no one hard moment, but just continuous. So in my case, I knew I had to make money in order to pay bills and things like that. So I worked a lot during school, and thank goodness attendance itself wasn't always mandatory to be physically there because the classes were recorded. So that gave me the ability to work and then to be able to listen to the recording of the class, for me to be able to conference with the teacher, ask questions and things like that if it was a class that I didn't necessarily have to be at. And so that helped out a ton throughout that time frame. So I was always on the move during podiatry school, and I did fail my very first anatomy exam horribly, horribly. And so we had 12. Two of them we could throw away. The other 10 counted. And so instantly within the first week of class, my one of the two freebies that I had was gone. And so that put a lot of pressure on me to kind of step my ball game up, or just step my game up and get it right. And so I didn't have to use that other freebie over there. I wound up getting an A in anatomy. And but that put a fire up under me for sure. And a more serious hardship during residency time frame, my mother passed away while I was actually in residency. And so she passed away during my second year. Yeah, during my second year of residency, going into like the third year. And so she was at my hospital when she initially got sick. So she died from lung cancer. She had stage 4 lung cancer, which she didn't know about, and she found out fairly randomly after having a bout with a constant cough. And so she was with me, hanging out with me when she had like the side effects and the side effects from the metastases of the lung cancer. So the cancer was in the lungs, metastasized to her brain and other parts of the body, and then side effects came along. And so she stayed up there with me in Philadelphia and was at my hospital while she was getting her initial care. And so I kind of flip flop between being in residency, running over to check on my mother, being there all night long. And I had a great group of friends that helped out. And one in particular, Dr. Kabibi Davidson. I always got to give her a shout out. She's down in Tampa, Florida. Dr. Davidson helped out tremendously during that time frame for me. And so that was my biggest hardship, to learn that what I was doing in terms of residency, and in terms of learning the body, learning medicine, learning how to treat the body, it let me know ultimately that you got a lot of skills, but you're still not totally in control. And so timing is not always up to you. And what happens in your life is just another obstacle for you to actually overcome, if you're willing to actually overcome that obstacle. Basically, you got to be able to handle it with some type of poise and grace and in resiliency, because you're definitely going to have them. And so I think that was a big one for me in terms of losing my mother while I was still in residency and everything. And so family down here helped out as well once we returned back to Maryland as well, because she didn't stay with me the entire time. She stayed with me the vast majority, and then we brought her back down here to Maryland as well. So.
Well, I'm sure it gave her comfort that her son was a doctor and that she got to spend time with you. I know that gave her some comfort. So I think, like I said, everything at some level happens for a reason. So I think that worked out, that she was able to even be at the same hospital that you were at. I don't
It
think
was
that was some divine intervention there. So um
It was fun.
that's,
It was fun.
yeah.
She came up and she hung out with me a lot just in general. So, we got a chance to have our celebratory moments and stuff on a fairly regular basis. So bowling with me and my friends and things like that, going to eat out around Philadelphia. So Philadelphia has some great places to eat. Just let everybody know if you don't know. So yeah, so it was good. So there's no true sadness or regrets in terms of that. So once I understood what life was all about, yeah, it was okay.
Mhm. Tell us then, on the flip side, what was maybe your maybe like your greatest moment or like a fond memory in med school, and then also just like residency and becoming like a doctor, like finishing. Are there any, are there two moments that stick out in particular that you were like, this is great? Like
I
it could
think
be
I have
any.
about a thousand moments. It was a lot to celebrate during podiatry school. Of course, graduation was great, but even before then, I went into podiatry school thinking that there were going to be just a bunch of book nerds, really, and there weren't going to be athletes there. So I was going to be bored. That's literally what I was thinking. And lo and behold, there were a ton of people. That were athletes that played basketball, that played football, at the semi-pro level, things like that. So it was awesome. It was awesome to be around a bunch of people, highly intelligent people who also love sports. And so we were on basketball teams together. We were on football teams, flag football teams together. So not necessarily contact or anything. But those were some of the best moments, to spend time outside of the actual classroom and to be able to see each other in our most natural environment. So being on a football field, being on a basketball court, I'd say for sure were like some of the great moments, especially with the people that you knew that you're probably going to know and talk to for the rest of your life. And so, yeah, I consider that to be super special.
So on the podcast, I'm always talking about how less than 5% of doctors are, lawyers are Black, and less than 2.5 are Black female. That statistic is very similar in the medical community. Less than 5% of
Yeah.
doctors are Black. Less than 2.5 are obviously Black women doctors. But then there's an even smaller percentage, and I don't have it exactly, but it's extremely small, of Black surgeons. So you are essentially a unicorn when I looked at that number, because I was like, well, dang, I don't even know if that's, it wasn't even quite 1%. So it's,
Yeah.
so I was just like, but in my mind, and I think I take for granted at some level
Yeah.
that I know Black doctors. I know so many Black surgeons. It's actually kind of crazy how many I know. So I think for me, um, I just take for granted that I know some people, right? But then when you look at
Yeah.
the statistics, it's like, no, it's really not that many. Um, in terms of being a surgeon, because your hands, you guys are literally cutting on people, right? So if someone, obviously, I know there are different types of surgeons, obviously. So I know this answer will be just generally speaking, but do you kind of have to have like a special skill set, like your hands? Do you have to kind of have it? Is it kind of like I don't want to say like by
Hand-eye
nature?
coordination.
Yeah. Do you kind of just have to naturally kind of have that talent? Because not all doctors can become surgeons.
This is true. Not all doctors can become surgeons, but that's just because there are a limited amount of slots. And so there are some other requirement and criteria that, pushes people out. But to answer your question, it doesn't necessarily have to be a natural gift or anything of a sort. So spatial reasoning and conceptualization, if you can see things turning in space, if you got a calmness about you or stillness, that helps out a great deal. You can be taught to do the actual surgery itself. So not more difficult in terms of doing the surgery than it may be really learning how to type or repairing something in the house. It's just going to take time, and it's going to take some tutelage, obviously, and it's going to take a lot of patience on your part. And so those things can actually be taught. They improve and get better with time, with experience and everything. So no, you don't have to come in with the skill sets already in hand. It's people like me on the other end now that teach the youngsters how to do things.
Well, you are a very calm person. I know sometimes people say you're too calm, but I'm like, I want my surgeon to be calm. I don't know what y'all talking about. Y'all can have no surgeon like me. My personality, no, no way. Because, like you said, the amount of focus that you have to have, and you can't really react in the moment. Like, yeah, I don't care what you say. I think that personality type. I think you guys have a certain personality type, because I don't. I think if you were to have a different type of person, it would show in the results. You
So
have
yeah,
some hopping around.
yeah,
So.
we definitely have a personality type, which is necessary for the job. And sometimes that personality type is within us, and so it spills over into like normal life, social life. Like I'm just generally a calm person, just in general. But of course, I can turn up. I like to have fun and everything. I can get loud and everything. And but ultimately I am a calm person. So amidst a whole bunch of partying and everything, I'm the person that's, that's pretty focused, surveying the room and looking around and making sure that everybody's all right, things of that nature, and thinking about, the next step and the following step. Where are we going after we leave this place? What are we doing next? And so the wheels are spinning. And but during that time frame of surgery, yeah, you definitely super duper focus. Just the same as like athletes, when that whatever type they have, that they that they something for a case or deposition or something like that, then yeah, we definitely have a personality type, and we're prone to getting super focused, super serious real quick, which helps us out a lot.
Okay, well, I guess that
Yeah.
leads to my last question. What was like your best like, you became a surgeon, like what was like your best like client story, and maybe like I don't want to say a horror story, but like you were like, Dad, this is awful. This is like like I don't know if it was like a really bad case that you had to work on. So best and best and worst.
Best and worst. And so more so client slash patients interactions and things like that. And so a lot of doctors can attest
And I think you're breaking up for some reason.
just having patient personalities that let me try to turn on my
Yeah,
my
it's
hot
breaking
spot
up
as
because
opposed
I
to
don't
my
want it to
Wi-Fi.
mess up your answer.
Okay, all right. Let me do one or two things really quick
Okay.
and just give ourselves give ourselves another. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Let's
There
see.
you go.
I think you're okay.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
better because you
we
were literally, it was like chopping up towards that.
chopping up and everything. Yeah, I'm
I didn't want
sorry.
it to mess up your answer. So best and worst.
Yeah, best and worst. And so really just having patients that you can't form a bond with and that you can't necessarily solve their issue. Sometimes it may be a patient that's too far gone for what you can handle, and they need to be in someone else's hands. And so, yeah, personality discrepancies play a major part in patient satisfaction. And I'm a calm person, but I'm also a no nonsense person in my case. And so, and so, if there's too much of that, if there's too much nonsense, we're just not going to get along. So I'm happy to refer, one of my colleagues, another podiatrist, another orthopedist to help you handle what you got going on because I am there to enjoy the time that I have with you as a patient and to solve a problem, but without the nonsense for sure. So I'd say one of my worst experiences was in within that realm. I never tell exactly what it is. And so the best is also on the opposite end of that spectrum where there are tons of patients who thank goodness, and I'm so blessed to have patients that just bring in gifts. So this summer season, we had about 4 or 5 patients that were bringing in different vegetables, different fruits, and things like that as ways of saying thank you and everything. Brought them in for the office, brought them in for me, which is awesome. Grown from their own garden, so that's pretty dope. And there are other patients, come wintertime that will bring in equipment and things like that to donate to the next person. So it's a way of basically saying, hey, Dr. Harrison, I appreciate what you did for me, and here's how I can be a small help. So yeah, so plenty of victories. There's some losses and things like that, especially in terms of patients who personalities don't really coalesce too well. But yeah, it's always fun. It's always fun.
Okay, so I lied. My last question is actually
Oh, we can keep on going. I have time. It's all right.
my last question actually is, can you tell us a little more about physician burnout? Because I know you've experienced that before,
Yeah,
and I
definitely.
kind of think it touches base on maybe becoming an entrepreneur and maybe changing your schedule. I think, you become this doctor, you get out of residency, and then you're expected to work all these hours. I know lawyers, I guess we don't call it lawyer burnout, but I guess that's what you can call it. Because typically, if you go into a big firm, they're paying you 6 figures, but you're their slave. You have to be there 12 to
Okay.
15 hours a day.
I, I
So
see. I see.
yeah, so you're getting paid all the big bucks and it seems really exciting. And then you learn why they're paying you so much money because they don't want you.
Yeah,
That's the gag for big firm, for big firm. Everywhere else, obviously, there's more flexibility. But I always tell students that are interested in going into the big firm route,
yeah,
you're going to get paid a lot of money, but you will never see anybody. Just make friends with the doorman at the office. Those are the people you're gonna see. The mailman, the trash man. You're gonna be in the office all day long. So, but on the flip side, because this is more this obviously this is more focused on the medical profession. Tell me more about physician burnout and how you dealt with that.
yeah. So I definitely got burnt out within about a year, 3 to 4 of being in private practice. I was with a orthopedic group, so I was seeing a lot of people. I was seeing about 100 patients a week in the office, which amounts to 20 to 25 in a day, which is a lot. And you still have to do the notes for these patients and electronic medical records, which may be helpful on one end in terms of, sending messages and records to other doctors and things like that. It also has its disadvantages because that puts a lot more work on us to actually do in terms of typing in and things like that, and even dictating sometimes. And so I also had a busy surgery schedule at the same time. So whether I was doing 3 to 4 cases or upwards of 10 cases in a particular week, that was a lot to do. And from just doing that constantly, yeah, you can easily get burnt out. So we're talking hour wise, we're talking from 8 to 9, 10 o'clock between seeing the patients, getting the work done, going to the hospital to check on people who may be in the hospital, performing surgeries at a surgery center or at the hospital or something like that. Answering phone calls because a lot of patients have additional questions when they leave the office, talking to other physicians about patients, talking to physical therapists, things like that. It's a lot, and it's real. It's so real that there are literally physician burnouts support systems because we understand. And so one of the other categories that's hardly mentioned is those physicians that have a rotating schedule. So, emergency room, especially if you may be on call, you're working overnights for the next 3 nights or the next week, and then you turn around and you're working during the daytime. So it's throwing off your circadian rhythm and everything, and throwing off your interaction with your family members and things of that nature. And so a part of that physician burnout is not just the work, but it's the lack of who you're around. So we need those other components of life in order to keep us stable. The social component of our life in order to really keep us grounded. And when it gets too off balance, yeah, it's tough to recover from for sure.
So tell people how you dealt with it because you have your own practice now. I know that was part of your solution. You decided, okay, I can't do this for the rest of my life, but I still want to be a surgeon. So, how did you go down the path of like, okay, I got to do something differently?
Yeah, so when it comes and it hits you hard, other people see it, they recognize it sometimes even before we actually recognize it. But when it does come, so you got some choices in your life to actually make. So for me, I reduced the amount of patients that I actually saw, and so that allowed me to be a little bit more interactive with my patients. I'm always interactive just in general, especially in the office setting, but it allowed me to be a lot more comfortable with the time frame that I was spending with them, while still being able to kind of meet some of the goals that we had within the actual corporation and stuff, and is in my own practice. I also, went back out into the field a lot more in terms of track and field and coaching. And so I was coaching from afar for a little while I was so busy. So I'd speak to parents on the phone, I'd speak to coaches on the phone, I'd speak to athletes on the phone and FaceTime and stuff like that. And so I physically went out there, did some traveling. Of course, traveling is always good to be in a different environment and everything, and a whole lot more family time. And so hanging out with cousins and friends and things of that nature. So, just get back to doing what you did before all of this started. And it kind of helps to settle you, to get you back to normal. It takes a while, but that's what I did in my case.
I was gonna say. Speaking of which, the name of your practice is the Foot and Ankle Institute of Maryland, right?
Got it. Yes.
Okay. And it's the foot. What is the website where people can find you if they want to refer you to
That exactly. A long website. Foot. It's obnoxiously long.
someone
Obnoxious.
stole your other domain, right? Should have known me
It
back in
did.
the
It
day. I
did.
could
It
have helped
did.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? Where were you? Come on,
I
man.
don't know. So what stole his domain? He had the perfect domain with I think it was just www.faim.com, right?
Yeah, it was fame, faim.com. And so foot, ankle, Foot Ankle Institute Maryland. See, it's so long that I have trouble saying it myself. Foot Ankle Institute Maryland .com. And
And
so
where can you, in on social media, I mean, obviously all the videos will tell you the
you're breaking up some over there. He
oh,
said,
Dr. Donald Harrison on all social media for the most part.
yeah, Dr. Donald Harrison. So yeah, so if you put that in social media or into Google, Yahoo, and things like that, I should pop up for the most part. There is another more popular, more famous doctor. I'm not actually famous, but there's a famous Donald Harrison. He's a jazz musician from New Orleans, and so I got the opportunity to see him play, which was pretty cool when I was in New Orleans. But
There's
Dr. Don,
also a Donald Harrison that was an attorney. And I was like, that's not, I can't tell you how I know this, but I was working on a case and I guess I got access to certain emails as a part of that case.
yeah.
And so when I was looking in the two fields, I'm like, wait a minute. But then it dawned on me, I'm like, well, maybe it's just a popular name. Because at first I was like, no, wait a minute, what's his email? But then I was like, oh, wait, this has to be a different one. So yeah, it's so funny. You always think it's like, oh, this is the only name, and then you Google it and then you see who else has your name. So yeah, for sure. Well, is there anything else you want to leave the audience with? We hope to obviously interview you again about some other topics and other things, but is there anything? Oh, well, before you say that, I do want to plug two things. One, I love that you said that there are support groups for physician burnout. The Black Lawyers Podcast actually has a partnership with BetterHelp. So if you go to our website or if you go to the link in the bio on our Instagram page, we actually have a special discount for people for BetterHelp if you would like to use that mental health service, which is an app for a therapist near you. We also obviously are wearing the shirts. Dr. Harrison talked about how you have to be proactive and find scholarships and grants, whether you be a law student or medical students, to get those costs down. These shirts fundraise year round. We had a special edition shirt we did with Kerry Washington that fundraised for the NAACP, but the shirt we have year round actually also fundraises for the scholarship. Hill Harper, who is a Harvard lawyer, but is playing a doctor on TV twice. I'm going to ask, why has he never played a lawyer on TV? I'm going to ask him that the next
Come on,
time.
Hill. Come on, Hill. We need to link up. We need to link up, man.
So he actually was a doctor twice on CSI,
Uh-huh.
and obviously he's on the Good Doctor now. So I didn't put both of his doctor's name. I put the Good Doctor name, which I believe is Dr. Andrews, on the shirt. That's Hill
There you
Harper's.
go.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, we can see it. So he's our ambassador. So he's a lawyer, but he's a doctor on TV. So he's our Black TV doctor ambassador. So check out the collections. They're on theblacklawyers.com. Like I said, it fundraises for scholarships for students. The application is open until September 30th. So get your applications in, spread the word. If you are a doctor, please tell other Black doctors, people that are in med school. We help cover either you can pick books or your licensing exam, boarding exam. It raises for that for both law students and medical students. What else was I going to say about something else I was going to say about the scholarship? Now I
When are
can't
we
think of.
when are we picking for the scholarship? That's a good question.
Well, the deadline for applications is September 30th, and then we don't
Okay.
announce until like end of October, probably your birthday. We'll announce who we actually selected. And so we're trying to do this multiple times a year, not just once
Yeah.
or twice. We're trying to do it. The more y'all buy the t-shirt, the more scholarships we give out, because obviously a part of the proceeds go to the scholarship. So the more money we raise, the more we can do it throughout the year. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. So I promise to find some more scholarships for the doctors. I'm working on it. But in the meantime, if you're a lawyer or know a lawyer, a law student, I did find 5 additional scholarships for students, law students. So we are going to launch next week an actual student resource center on theblacklawyers.com. So it'll talk about this scholarship, but it'll also talk about resources for Black law students. But again, our community of doctors, we're kind of the legal and the medical community. We actually are companion professions. We come together in the community to help people, obviously in different ways, but we're both professions that help people. And so I always tell people when they say, I ask like, why do you want to be a lawyer? Why do you want to be a doctor? They start talking about money. Like, I can make all this money and I can do that. I'm like, there's a lot of things you could do to make money. You do not have to be a lawyer to make money. You do not have to be a doctor to make money. Sometimes I look at these influencers making millions of dollars, right? They didn't even finish, college. They haven't even finished high school and they're making millions of dollars. So there's ways to make money without being a lawyer or doctor. So you truly have to want to help people. As corny as that sounds, that should be your center reason, because
It
you're
doesn't
not
sound
gonna
corny.
all. What did you say?
It doesn't sound corny.
It didn't sound corny to you. Some people are like, oh, that just sounds like the good answer. But no, I actually enjoy helping people. Just like you said, you didn't give a specific example, but like, somebody comes in with a specific issue with their foot and ankle, and then you actually fix it, and then you see them weeks from now and they're walking around, you could be like, hey,
That's
I did that.
satisfaction. Yeah,
That's
it's
my work.
satisfaction.
That's my work. Right. Exactly. So for me, someone comes to me with a legal issue or something and I can actually resolve it and I can see that it was resolved, that that makes me feel good. I actually
Yeah.
helped. So I think you at the center of going down this path, whether it be a doctor or lawyer, I definitely think that has to be at the center of it. So hopefully if you're listening, keep that in mind, because it is definitely not an easy journey. You will question yourself multiple times throughout, I'm sure, med school, just through law school, like, oh my God, why am I torturing myself? Everybody's outside having a good time. Everybody's living their life. Everybody's going to the cookout. And I'm in here like stuck. You're going to question yourself.
Definitely.
But if you hold on to why you're really doing it, it definitely helps you down that path. So we appreciate you just spilling some gems with us and giving us a little more info. Now people know a little bit more about the person behind the shirt, and we hope to obviously interview you in the future again.